The truth is simple but brutal. Most people don't think. They react. They live trapped in impulses, distractions, and emotions that hijack reasoning. While they believe they're in control, their minds are being programmed by fear, by media, by habit. Critical thinking is the skill that separates the wise from the manipulated. And once you master it, the entire world changes color. To discipline the mind is a silent act of rebellion. It's refusing to be a prisoner of anxiety, hurry, and the opinions of others. Mental discipline is what transforms chaotic thoughts into strategic clarity. And this clarity of thought isn't a gift, it's training. The same training that builds leaders, visionaries, and emotionally unshakable individuals. The problem is that we were taught to think fast, not to think well. The system wants tired minds, easily distracted and incapable of questioning. But those who awaken to the power of disciplined thinking become impossible to manipulate. Self-awareness is the first step of liberation, and emotional control is the shield that protects the mind's clarity. Imagine waking up every day with a clean, clear, focused mind. No noise, no doubt, no fear. That clarity doesn't come from motivation. It comes from conscious practice. Critical thinking and mental discipline work together like sword and shield. One cuts through illusion, the other guards the truth. And when that harmony happens, thinking becomes your greatest weapon. This audiobook is the map for those who want to master their own minds and see beyond the obvious. Here you'll learn to develop clarity of thought even under pressure, to cultivate self-awareness to the point where no criticism can shake you, and to use emotional control as a tool of silent power. Are you ready to think as few do, and live as almost no one does? Most people believe critical thinking is something reserved for geniuses or intellectuals, but the truth is it's a trainable skill. With mental discipline, anyone can learn to think with greater clarity of thought. It's not just about analyzing ideas, it's about questioning your own certainties. It's like cleaning the windows of your mind to see what's really there. And the cleaner that vision becomes, the clearer the path ahead. When someone develops critical thinking, they begin to see the world with more depth. Situations that once felt confusing start to make sense. You stop reacting impulsively and begin responding with awareness, guided by emotional control. It's the difference between the one who shouts in chaos and the one who observes in silence, waiting for the right moment to act. This is the foundation of true power. Think of a strategist. He doesn't rush to make the first move. He observes, calculates, and reflects. That's the essence of critical thinking. Every decision is shaped by mental discipline that prevents him from acting emotionally. People like that don't need to be fast. They need to be precise. And the more they train the mind, the more natural their decisions become. Clarity of thought is like turning on a flashlight in a dark room. Suddenly, you realize the path was always there. You just couldn't see it. That clarity isn't innate. It's the result of self-awareness. It means stopping to understand what you feel and why you feel it. Because whoever doesn't master their own thoughts will eventually be mastered by them. Critical thinking is the antidote to the noise of the modern world. News, opinions, and social media all fight for your attention. But those with mental discipline know how to filter what matters. They listen without absorbing everything. They analyze without reacting impulsively. That's how clarity of thought is born amid informational chaos. In moments of pressure, critical thinking becomes a shield. When everyone else loses control, the critical thinker maintains emotional control. It's the investor who doesn't panic during a financial crash, or the leader who decides calmly in the middle of a storm. It's not coldness, it's emotional wisdom, earned through disciplined thinking. Imagine being in a heated discussion. While others raise their voices, you remain silent, analyzing what lies beneath the words. That's the union of self-awareness and emotional control. Thinking critically means realizing emotion is part of the mind, but not its master. It's an equilibrium that must be built one moment at a time. People who master critical thinking don't run from hard questions. They embrace the discomfort of thinking deeply because they know wisdom lives there. Mental discipline drives them to examine their beliefs, fears, and intentions. That's rare because it requires courage, the courage to admit when you're wrong. And from that humility comes growth. Have you ever noticed how some people stay calm amid chaos? It's not luck, it's training. They use critical thinking to organize thoughts, prioritize what matters, and maintain clarity of thought even when everything falls apart. That's one of the purest forms of personal power, controlling the mind before trying to control the world. To develop critical thinking, build a habit of daily reflection, through writing, reading, or simply asking, "Why do I think this way?" That constant exercise strengthens mental discipline. Slowly, what was once automatic becomes intentional, and your mind becomes an ally, not an enemy. This is the foundation of true mental freedom. The secret is to slow down. In a world that worships speed, thinking slowly is an act of intelligent rebellion. Critical thinking doesn't happen in haste. It thrives in pauses. It's in that pause between stimulus and response where freedom lives. And the real strength lies in thinking before reacting, even when the world demands the opposite. There's a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from books, but from silent observation. The self-awareness practitioner perceives nuances invisible to others. They know every thought is a seed, and by planting quality ideas, they harvest better actions. That's true mental discipline, caring for the inner garden of your mind with consistency and purpose. Critical thinking is a form of intellectual self-defense. It shields you from hollow speeches, false promises, and emotional traps. Clarity of thought gives you the compass, and emotional control keeps you on course. That way, you're no longer carried by the tide of others' opinions. You start navigating life with your own purpose. Those who master critical thought see every problem as an opportunity to learn. Instead of getting angry at the obstacle, they analyze cause and effect and seek logical solutions. Guided by mental discipline, they turn challenges into silent teachers. And with every lesson, the mind becomes sharper, steadier, and wiser. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about critical thinking is that it never ends. It's a constant process of refinement, observing, analyzing, and growing. The more you practice, the more clarity of thought and self-awareness flourish. And it's precisely there that a new journey begins, the deep dive into understanding the very nature of your own mind. Reasoning also applies to relationships. How often do we judge others without knowing their context? Critical thinking reminds you to seek evidence before concluding. Maybe that person isn't cold, just shy. Maybe it's not arrogance, it's fear. Clarity of thought replaces judgment with curiosity. Logical reasoning is the antidote to manipulation. Advertising, politics, even friendships can twist emotions to control perception. Mental discipline protects you, training the mind to ask why, and how do you know? That habit of verification separates independent thinkers from blind followers. Clarity of thought demands intellectual humility, admitting you could be wrong even when you're sure. That attitude opens the door to growth. Self-awareness helps catch the ego when it tries to silence logic. Emotional control prevents defending ideas just for pride. The wise mind prefers learning over winning. Applying evidence-based thinking improves daily life decisions too, from diet to finances. Instead of chasing trends, the logical thinker researches, compares, and tests. They don't crave quick fixes, only consistency. That approach turns life into a personal lab of constant discovery. Logical reasoning also exposes fallacies, mental traps like everyone does it, or you're either with us or against us. Critical thinking reveals those distortions and restores reasoning. Mental discipline is the filter keeping false arguments from masquerading as truth. That's the path to authentic clarity. Evidence is the language of disciplined minds. Those who think with logic see patterns others ignore. Investors spot trends before markets shift. Communicators read reactions before crowds respond. Clarity of thought is the gift of those who observe beyond surface noise, and it's earned through consistent rational practice. When the mind learns to use logic and evidence as guides, chaos turns into clarity. Decisions stop being impulses and become strategies. And curiously, the more rational you grow, the more you understand the role of emotion, because true logic only flourishes in a mind aware of its own biases and feelings. The greatest enemy of reason isn't ignorance, it's the illusion of knowing. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts created by the brain to save energy, yet they distort reality. That's why critical thinking is essential. It forces you to question what your mind declares with certainty. Mental discipline stops you from accepting lies simply because they feel comfortable. Clarity of thought begins when you wisely doubt yourself. We all carry invisible biases. We remember what confirms our beliefs and ignore what contradicts them. That's confirmation bias, and it shapes more of our decisions than we realize. To overcome it, you need self-awareness, the act of asking, "Am I seeing the whole picture?" That question alone is emotional control and intellectual courage in action. Imagine an investor who only reads news that supports his chosen asset. He feels secure, but he's blind. The mental discipline of a true strategist lies in seeking the opposite view. That's real critical thinking, not protecting your beliefs, but testing them to destruction. It's uncomfortable, but it's the discomfort that produces clarity and strength. Another common trap is availability bias, judging frequency by what comes easily to mind. For instance, thinking the world is more dangerous because of constant negative news. Clarity of thought means realizing the mind exaggerates what's recent and forgets what's stable. Reality is rarely as dramatic as the headlines suggest. Optimism bias is equally deceptive. It makes us underestimate risks and overestimate results. The solution isn't pessimism but balance. With emotional control, you keep enthusiasm without losing caution. Mental discipline plans for the best, but prepares for the worst. It's the wisdom of dreaming big while standing firmly on the ground. Then there's anchoring bias, when the first piece of information you hear becomes the reference for everything else. For example, the first price you see can distort all later judgments. Critical thinking breaks that anchor, forcing reevaluation through real data. Clarity of thought reveals that first impressions are rarely the most accurate. To overcome bias, slow your thinking down. Haste fuels mistakes. Mental discipline is the brake that prevents premature decisions. Before reacting, pause and ask, "What evidence do I truly have?" That conscious pause is the foundation of emotional control and the birth of analytical wisdom. A powerful technique is to think like a scientist. Scientists don't aim to be right, they aim to understand. The ordinary mind wants to prove. The disciplined mind wants to discover. Applying the scientific method to daily life, observing, testing, revising, strengthens critical thinking. Every failure becomes data, not defeat. Self-awareness is the most potent antidote to unconscious bias. When you watch your thoughts without justification, you uncover hidden filters, distorting your perception. You realize that many judgments come from fear, vanity, or comparison. With clarity of thought, you clean those filters and begin to see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Groupthink is another mental trap. When everyone thinks alike, no one thinks deeply. Mental discipline gives you courage to disagree, even when it's uncomfortable. The independent thinker keeps emotional control to listen to the group, but decides through reason. They know harmony without questioning is just elegant conformity. Overcoming bias is also an exercise in humility. The mind lies, and does so constantly. Critical thinking doesn't erase these errors, but reduces their power. Mental discipline is the night watchman of thought, sounding the alarm whenever emotion tries to seize control. This constant vigilance creates intellectual freedom. A valuable practice is seeking feedback from those who think differently. It's uncomfortable, but it's pure gold for growth. Clarity of thought sharpens through friction, not agreement. When someone challenges your perspective, treat it as a gift. That openness is where self-awareness flourishes and real learning takes root. Hindsight bias, "I knew it all along," is one of the sneakiest traps. It creates false confidence and feeds the ego. The solution is documenting decisions before results unfold. Write what you thought, why, and what you expected. That act of mental discipline destroys illusions and builds authentic clarity of thought. Each bias is a colored lens distorting reality. None of us see the world neutrally, but power lies in acknowledging that. With self-awareness and emotional control, you learn to switch lenses consciously. Instead of being trapped by your perspective, you start to see from many angles. Wisdom lives within that multiplicity of vision. Overcoming cognitive bias is endless but liberating work. Each bias you expose removes a layer of illusion. Critical thinking is the art of dismantling internal lies with patience and curiosity. And as that clarity grows, a natural impulse arises to use your sharper mind to solve real problems. The next evolution of disciplined thought. Solving problems isn't just about finding answers. It's about learning to ask better questions. The true critical thinker doesn't rush to act. They observe, understand, and analyze. Critical thinking is the foundation of every effective solution because it separates symptoms from causes. Mental discipline sustains focus when everything feels chaotic. Clarity of thought is the light that guides reasoning through confusion. The first step in solving any problem is defining what's truly at stake. Many people attack consequences while ignoring root causes. With self-awareness, you notice when you're reacting emotionally rather than strategically. And with emotional control, you see the entire picture clearly. Before fixing the world, organize your own mind. Clarity begins within. A good problem must be broken into smaller parts, like dismantling a clock to see how it works. This technique of decomposition is the secret of engineers, strategists, and great leaders. When the challenge feels overwhelming, breaking it down restores control. Each part becomes a step, and each step feels possible. It's critical thinking and mental discipline in perfect partnership. Clarity of thought appears when confusion turns into structure. Write the problem down, map its causes, list possible solutions. Don't rely on memory, it's unreliable. Putting thoughts on paper is an act of discipline that turns the invisible into visible. The more tangible the problem becomes, the closer you are to a logical and effective solution. Classic techniques unite creativity and logic. Brainstorming, for instance, generates ideas without judgment. Later, critical thinking steps in to filter what's realistic and valuable. It's the dance between freedom and structure that sparks breakthroughs. This balance is the essence of mental discipline applied to complex challenges. Another powerful tool is the 5 whys method. When something goes wrong, ask why. 5 times to uncover the root cause. Each answer digs deeper, revealing hidden patterns. The process requires patience, logic, and clarity of thought, but the results are transformative. Complex problems often hide in simple origins. Emotional problems also need structured reasoning. Often, it's not the world that's messy, it's the mind. Self-awareness helps you see whether the issue is external or internal. Emotional control prevents strong feelings from clouding judgment. Problem-solving, therefore, is both psychological and logical. It demands balance above all. A key principle of problem-solving is accepting that every solution has a cost. Critical thinking teaches you to weigh pros and cons before acting. There's rarely a perfect choice, only the most coherent one. Mental discipline lets you make tough calls without regret. That kind of maturity comes only with conscious practice. When stuck in an impasse, change your perspective. Problems persist not because they're unsolvable, but because they're seen from a single angle. Seek new voices, read new ideas, change your environment. Clarity of thought needs mental oxygen and new stimuli. Sometimes stepping back is the most logical step forward. Great problem solvers aren't the smartest, they're the most disciplined. They follow processes, test hypotheses, and record lessons learned. That repetition builds mental discipline for tackling bigger challenges calmly. Each mistake becomes data, and each piece of data becomes wisdom. Critical thinking transforms failure into fuel for progress. A common mistake is trying to solve everything alone. Collaboration, when guided by clarity of thought, expands horizons. Different minds bring unseen perspectives. Emotional control keeps the ego from resisting input. Working together demands the same inner discipline expected from great thinkers. Another valuable tool is the cause and effect map, used by leaders and creators alike. It visually connects factors, choices, and outcomes. Building that map helps the brain organize chaos. It reinforces both critical thinking and mental discipline through focus and precision. The result is a calmer, more analytical mind ready for complexity. Not every problem needs an immediate solution. Sometimes, time itself is part of the answer. Knowing when to wait requires emotional control and trust in your own clarity of thought. There's a difference between procrastination and allowing ideas to mature. Wise minds understand that some solutions grow best in silence, not urgency. Practicing problem solving is like exercising cognitive and emotional muscles simultaneously. The more you do it, the more natural logic feels. Self-awareness acts as a mirror revealing reactions that sabotage reasoning. Mental discipline keeps emotion from taking over. The harmony between feeling and thought is the secret of efficiency. Eventually, solving problems stops feeling like a burden and becomes an art. Each challenge turns into an invitation to grow. Critical thinking, mental discipline, and clarity of thought operate like a perfectly tuned orchestra. Each mental instrument plays its part, creating balance between logic and intuition. And from that harmony comes the next great skill: communication that connects and collaborates. Communication is where critical thinking meets humanity. Words are the bridge between your thoughts and someone else's world. But few know how to cross that bridge with clarity. Clarity of thought makes your ideas sharp, and emotional control ensures your tone is calm, not reactive. Together, they transform speaking into an act of connection instead of domination. Good communication starts with listening, truly listening. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. Self-awareness reveals this pattern and helps break it. When you listen with attention and discipline, silence becomes your greatest tool. You stop hearing words and start hearing meaning. Critical thinking refines dialogue by separating emotion from intention. When someone disagrees with you, the goal isn't to win, it's to understand. Mental discipline holds you steady when egos clash. Emotional control prevents the conversation from becoming a battlefield. And in that maturity, collaboration flourishes naturally. To communicate well, you must first master your inner dialogue. The way you talk to yourself shapes how you talk to others. Self-awareness lets you detect the self-criticism or impatience that leaks into your voice. When your inner tone becomes kind and focused, your outer tone follows. That's authentic clarity of thought and action. In group settings, communication becomes a test of discipline. The best collaborators aren't those who speak most, but those who bring order to chaos. Mental discipline helps structure meetings, discussions, and decisions. Critical thinking filters ideas by relevance, not emotion. And emotional control keeps the group aligned when tension rises. Empathy is the secret ingredient of great communication. It's not softness, it's strategy. Understanding the emotional context behind words allows better persuasion. Self-awareness helps recognize your emotional triggers. Clarity of thought ensures empathy doesn't turn into manipulation. The balance of both creates respect that endures. One effective method is active listening. Paraphrase what the other person said before responding. This simple act shows attention, invites correction, and reduces conflict. It's pure emotional control applied through speech. Mental discipline keeps focus on the message, not on your reply. It's how mature minds build trust. Critical thinking also improves teamwork by organizing diversity of ideas. In a group of strong personalities, chaos is inevitable without structure. Mental discipline keeps the group's focus on shared goals. Clarity of thought transforms noise into progress. And emotional control makes collaboration feel less like compromise and more like harmony. Great communicators understand that tone shapes meaning more than words. The same phrase can heal or harm depending on delivery. Self-awareness helps adjust tone consciously. Emotional control filters the reaction before it becomes sound. That's how real communicators guide conversations toward understanding instead of confusion. Another key element is curiosity. Every conversation hides an opportunity to learn something new. Critical thinking keeps curiosity grounded in reality, not flattery. Clarity of thought prevents distraction by irrelevance. When you approach dialogue as discovery, even disagreement becomes productive. It's learning disguised as conversation. Mental discipline in communication also means choosing silence strategically. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. The disciplined mind knows that restraint can say more than words. Emotional control turns silence into strength, and that calmness naturally commands respect in any environment. Collaboration thrives when each member feels heard and valued. Critical thinking ensures fairness in evaluating ideas. Mental discipline creates systems that give everyone a voice. Self-awareness helps you notice when your ego wants to dominate. And clarity of thought keeps the group's purpose at the center, not personal validation. Effective communication is like music. Timing, tone, and rhythm matter. When people speak from ego, it sounds like noise. When they speak from awareness, it sounds like harmony. Emotional control is the conductor ensuring balance. Critical thinking provides structure. Together, they transform conversation into creation. Good communication also involves transparency. The disciplined thinker doesn't hide intentions. They explain reasoning. This builds credibility and trust. Clarity of thought keeps the message simple and precise. And self-awareness reminds that honesty without empathy is cruelty, while empathy without honesty is weakness. When communication evolves into collaboration, minds unite around purpose. That's the moment where critical thinking stops being individual and becomes collective intelligence. Mental discipline keeps it aligned. Emotional control keeps it stable. And through this synergy, new perspectives emerge. The next step of true wisdom. A mind that thinks alone sees the world as a mirror. Everything reflects its own beliefs. But a mind open to diverse perspectives discovers new horizons. Critical thinking isn't just about questioning others. It's about questioning yourself. Mental discipline prevents the ego from rejecting ideas that challenge comfort. And from that humility, true clarity of thought is born. Wisdom lies in learning from those who think differently. The world is a laboratory of diverse minds, each with unique experiences and filters. Self-awareness teaches you to notice when you close doors to opposing opinions. Emotional control helps you listen without feeling attacked or diminished. In that balance, the mind expands genuinely. Engaging with other perspectives doesn't mean agreeing with them. It means understanding their reasoning. When you grasp someone else's why, your own critical thinking sharpens. Mental discipline prevents debates from turning into disputes. The focus shifts from who's right to what's true. That mindset transforms conversation into mutual growth. A powerful technique is steel manning, defending the strongest version of the opposing argument. Doing this practices intellectual empathy and trains clarity of thought. It demands humility and mental strength simultaneously. Self-awareness prevents pride from sabotaging the process. And in the end, you don't just understand others better, you understand yourself. In times of polarization, thinking with openness becomes an act of courage. The world craves certainty, but wisdom lives in questions. Critical thinking doesn't fear contradiction, it seeks it. Mental discipline keeps calm while others react emotionally. The serene mind doesn't take offense. It observes, reflects, and learns. Seeking different perspectives is like changing lenses constantly. Each lens reveals what others hide. Clarity of thought comes from seeing the whole, not just the part that benefits you. Self-awareness is the mirror showing when you're trapped in your own view. Emotional control ensures that self-critique becomes evolution, not guilt. Great leaders and thinkers are masters at hearing the opposite. They surround themselves with people who challenge them, not flatter them. That requires critical thinking and confidence in personal integrity. Mental discipline allows receiving criticism without fragmentation. And clarity of thought transforms disagreement into intellectual growth. Exposure to different cultures, ideas, and environments is training in rational empathy. Reading authors with opposite views strengthens critical thinking and cognitive tolerance. Self-awareness reveals which ideas trigger you and why. Emotional control prevents discomfort from becoming resistance. The mind grows and the heart matures. Learning from the opposite is an act of greatness. Mental discipline keeps curiosity alive even in discomfort. A wise thinker prefers an uncomfortable truth to a convenient illusion. They understand that every perspective holds a fragment of wisdom. Only through clarity of thought can you unite those fragments into something greater. When engaging with diverse people, the secret is listening without rushing to reply. That conscious pause is the core of critical thinking and dialogue. Self-awareness shows when vanity wants to speak for you. Emotional control restrains the tongue when ego wants to react. And from that combination, respect is born, the foundation of collaboration. Diversity of perspective also exists within you. There are parts of you that want to change and parts that resist. Critical thinking mediates between them without judgment. Mental discipline keeps focus on the greater purpose without being lost in noise. Clarity of thought organizes internal chaos and turns conflict into consciousness. Listening to someone you disagree with expands your mind even if you don't change your opinion. Simply considering another viewpoint is an exercise in mental power. Self-awareness shows the limits of your own vision. Emotional control keeps anger or fear from closing you off to learning. That's true intellectual humility in action. Engaging multiple views improves decision-making. The more perspectives you analyze, the lower the chance of error. Critical thinking lets you compare, weigh, and predict consequences accurately. Mental discipline avoids shortcuts and hasty judgment. Clarity of thought ensures that every choice reflects wisdom, not impulse. A mind that embraces diversity becomes flexible, creative, and resilient. It understands that reality is complex and multifaceted. Self-awareness teaches how to navigate nuance without losing oneself. Emotional control sustains calm amid a storm of opinions. And critical thinking acts as a compass, always pointing toward coherence. When you learn to nourish yourself with diverse perspectives, you realize truth isn't a fixed point but a journey. Mental discipline keeps you steady in that endless search. Clarity of thought turns learning into practical insight. Self-awareness makes the journey lighter and more conscious. And at that moment, a new ability emerges, deciding with wisdom and precision. Decision-making is one of the most underestimated skills of the human mind. Most people decide on impulse and then call the result fate. Critical thinking turns that process into both science and art. Mental discipline is the brake that prevents haste and emotion from deciding for you. Clarity of thought is the map guiding your choices through life's uncertainties. Every good decision begins with a pause. The silence before the choice is where wisdom lives. That pause is the territory of emotional control, the moment when the mind stops reacting and begins to reason. Self-awareness allows you to perceive what drives your decision, fear, desire, or logic. Without that awareness, even good intentions can lead to bad results. Critical thinking teaches that decisions shouldn't rely only on emotion or intuition, but on concrete evidence. Clarity of thought comes from analyzing data, patterns, and probabilities before acting. Mental discipline ensures reasoning isn't distorted by external pressure. Emotional control prevents enthusiasm or panic from taking the wheel. Deciding well is thinking calmly under fire. A useful technique is the decision matrix, listing options, criteria, and weights for each factor. This method is practical critical thinking applied to daily life. It turns the chaos of possibilities into organized clarity. The mental discipline of filling each detail trains logical thinking. And in the end, clarity of thought reveals the most coherent path. Another powerful strategy is the triple scenario. Think of the best, worst, and most probable outcome. This strengthens emotional control by preparing the mind for any result. Self-awareness reveals which scenario you fear most and why. Critical thinking ensures you judge facts, not emotions. Each decision then becomes less risky and more conscious. Decision-making isn't about eliminating risks, but managing them wisely. Mental discipline distinguishes between courage and recklessness. The disciplined thinker doesn't fear mistakes, but fears acting without thought. They understand that clarity of thought comes from analyzing and acting, not waiting for the perfect moment. Decision is movement with purpose, not reaction. A trained mind uses the regret test. Imagine your future self asking, "Will I regret not doing this?" This activates self-awareness and reveals hidden values. Critical thinking checks whether the answer comes from logic or fear. Emotional control maintains serenity to avoid acting from guilt. Conscious choices carry strength, not remorse. Big decisions rarely have obvious answers. They require mental courage to handle uncertainty. Mental discipline keeps focus when the variables seem endless. Clarity of thought helps prioritize essentials and cut through noise. Critical thinking reminds you that not deciding is also a decision, often the riskiest of all. Effective leaders don't decide alone. They decide better because they listen. They gather perspectives, challenge ideas, and apply logic to consensus. Self-awareness prevents pride from rejecting good advice. Emotional control ensures differing opinions don't become conflict. And critical thinking turns every voice into a coherent strategy. A powerful habit is reviewing past decisions. Analyze what worked, what failed, and what you ignored. That reflection strengthens critical thinking and analytical clarity. Mental discipline revisits mistakes without shame. Self-awareness turns failure into a living lesson. Emotional control ensures learning outweighs regret. Good decision-making also requires mental boundaries. Knowing when to stop thinking is part of wisdom. Clarity of thought isn't about gathering endless data, but knowing when enough is enough. Overanalysis is as dangerous as impulsiveness. Mental discipline balances both extremes, while critical thinking signals when clarity has been reached. Intuition has its place, but must be used consciously. It's the product of experiences processed subconsciously. Self-awareness helps you discern whether a gut feeling comes from wisdom or fear. Critical thinking analyzes, and emotional control validates before action. When logic and intuition work together, decisions become almost infallible. Before any important choice, ask yourself, what is my true intention? That question brings instant clarity of thought. Many bad choices come from hidden motives the rational mind ignores. Mental discipline makes you look inward honestly. Critical thinking ensures you choose what's right, not just what's easy. The decision process is, at its core, a training in self-mastery. Each conscious choice strengthens the mind for the next one. Emotional control ensures calm amid uncertainty. Self-awareness maintains integrity of intention. Critical thinking filters emotion, logic, and reality. Clarity of thought becomes the reward for those who think before they act. Over time, decision-making stops feeling heavy and becomes an art. The disciplined thinker knows no choice is perfect, but every choice is progress. Mental discipline and clarity of thought keep them steady when paths are unclear. Self-awareness guides them back when lost. That maturity leads to the next lesson, building the resilience to endure and grow from your decisions. Mental resilience isn't about being born strong. It's about becoming unbreakable through daily practice. Critical thinking teaches you to see difficulties as opportunities for growth, not punishment. Mental discipline is the invisible muscle that prevents collapse and chaos. Clarity of thought brings lucidity when the mind wants to despair. Emotional control keeps balance when everything feels off. Resilience isn't ignoring pain but understanding what it teaches. People with self-awareness recognize strong emotions without being ruled by them. They allow themselves to feel, but not to drown. Mental discipline keeps them steady when the urge to give up arises. Clarity of thought lights the path when darkness seems absolute. The resilient mind knows failure is just a disguised teacher. Each mistake, analyzed with critical thinking, turns into valuable insight. The key isn't reacting with guilt, but with curiosity. Mental discipline learns from the fall and rises with more consciousness. Self-awareness reveals the pattern that caused the fall, preventing repetition. Resilience is built in small details, the not today, the I'll try again, the this won't break me. These small victories accumulate mental strength over time. Emotional control helps endure frustration without losing direction. Clarity of thought keeps focus on what truly matters. Critical thinking teaches that persistence is wisdom in motion. The strongest people aren't those who never break, but those who know how to rebuild. They understand vulnerability isn't weakness, it's part of growth. Mental discipline helps them accept life's highs and lows serenely. Self-awareness turns pain into conscious learning. Emotional control prevents impulsive actions during storms. Resilience strengthens through how we handle criticism. The disciplined thinker listens, filters, and decides what's useful. Clarity of thought protects against unfair judgments. Critical thinking separates opinion from fact, emotion from truth. Emotional control stops aggressive reactions. Each critique becomes fuel for mastery. Mental discipline is the habit of continuing even when enthusiasm fades. The resilient mind doesn't depend on fleeting motivation, it depends on purpose. Self-awareness keeps the why alive behind every effort. Clarity of thought reminds that today's discomfort is the price of tomorrow's strength. Critical thinking organizes pain into progress. The secret of resilience lies in choosing responses, not reactions. In the face of challenge, breathe, observe, then act. That pause is emotional control, strength formed in silence. Mental discipline repeats that pattern until it becomes natural. Over time, clarity of thought becomes your most loyal ally. The resilient mind understands it can't control everything, only itself. That's the essence of mastery. Self-awareness reveals when fear hijacks reasoning. Critical thinking reorganizes thoughts to focus on what's within control. Mental discipline turns that awareness into continuous action, not empty theory. Resilience also means knowing when to rest without guilt. Strategic rest is strength, not weakness. Clarity of thought helps recognize when to pause for energy. Emotional control prevents addiction to endless productivity. Critical thinking ensures you differentiate smart rest from disguised avoidance. In crisis, resilience becomes the line between collapse and growth. Mental discipline keeps the mind functional when the world crumbles. The critical thinker observes chaos without merging with it. Self-awareness identifies emotional triggers that amplify fear. Clarity of thought allows seeing opportunities amid confusion. A powerful practice for resilience is reframing, reinterpretation. When something fails, ask, "What can I learn from this?" That shift activates critical thinking and aligns focus with growth. Mental discipline keeps that habit alive through pain. Emotional control ensures lessons outweigh lamentation. Resilient people don't seek an easy life. They build a prepared mind. They know challenges will come and train to face them calmly. Self-awareness acknowledges limits without surrendering. Clarity of thought guides when emotion dominates. Critical thinking gives tools to adapt without losing essence. Resilience is the bridge between what you feel and what you choose to do with it. It's the perfect fusion of emotion, reason, and purpose. Mental discipline creates stability under pressure. Emotional control prevents inner storms from destroying outer bridges. Self-awareness turns every pain into lasting growth. With time, mental resilience becomes a lifestyle, not a defense. Critical thinking finds meaning where others see tragedy. Clarity of thought turns adversity into direction. Mental discipline keeps you steady until the storm passes. When the sun returns, self-awareness shows how much you've evolved. That silent strength prepares you for ethical decisions ahead. Ethics isn't a set of external rules. It's the inner mirror of conscience. Integrity is the act of aligning what you think, feel, and do. Critical thinking helps you analyze moral dilemmas without getting lost in emotion. Mental discipline keeps decisions coherent even under pressure. Clarity of thought lights the way between what's convenient and what's right. Being ethical means keeping your word even when no one is watching. It's a silent commitment to your own truth. Self-awareness lets you notice when you're about to drift from your principles. Emotional control prevents a momentary impulse from destroying years of credibility. Critical thinking balances justice with compassion in daily choices. Integrity is what remains when masks fall. It's acting by values, not circumstance. Mental discipline sustains righteousness when temptation whispers otherwise. Clarity of thought shows the easy path is rarely the right one. Self-awareness allows you to recognize weakness without being ruled by it. The ethical mind is like an inner compass. It may shake in the wind, but always points north. Critical thinking helps interpret complex dilemmas without being deceived by appearances. Mental discipline keeps that compass steady in storms. Clarity of thought reveals consequences before action. Emotional control keeps feelings from clouding judgment. Integrity is constant self-mastery. It's easy to be fair when nothing's at stake. Hard when gain tempts betrayal. That's where critical thinking and mental discipline step in. They remind you the price of inconsistency is always higher than it seems. Ethics isn't only about what you do, but why you do it. Self-awareness brings perception before action. Emotional control stops emotional excuses from justifying the unjustifiable. Clarity of thought orders the mind to choose coherently. Critical thinking asks, Am I doing this because it's right or because it's easy? Living with integrity takes courage to swim against the tide. In a world that rewards results at any cost, keeping principles is moral rebellion. Mental discipline shields against convenience. Self-awareness detects when you drift from yourself. Critical thinking keeps you faithful to what truly matters. The ethical mind doesn't seek perfection, it seeks coherence. It accepts mistakes as human but rejects conscious deceit. Clarity of thought sees when pride hides error. Emotional control lets you admit failure calmly. Mental discipline turns each lesson into part of your character. Integrity is invisible to eyes yet felt in presence. People with principles radiate trust without speaking. Critical thinking protects them from manipulation dressed as virtue. Self-awareness lets them recognize limits without shame. Clarity of thought makes them firm without rigidity. Ethics starts in the micro, tiny daily choices that shape character. Justice once lies eroded. Mental discipline prevents internal erosion. Critical thinking sees the domino effect of each concession. Emotional control balances kindness with firmness. Integrity also means knowing when silence is wiser than speech. Truth-telling isn't dumping everything. It's choosing timing and tone. Clarity of thought guides communicative wisdom. Self-awareness distinguishes prudence from cowardice. Critical thinking ensures every word carries intent. Those who live with integrity inspire natural trust. Leading without ethics is building castles on sand. They collapse with the tide. Mental discipline holds character under attack. Emotional control stops impulsive reactions from wrecking credibility. Critical thinking anchors the mind in principles, not convenience. Ethics includes facing complex gray zones. Sometimes right and wrong blur, demanding discernment. Clarity of thought navigates moral fog. Self-awareness uncovers hidden motives. Mental discipline ensures coherence, even in ambiguity. Integrity reflects a disciplined mind that thinks before acting and feels before judging. Critical thinking structures reasoning. Emotional control refines response. Self-awareness keeps you conscious amid pressure. Clarity of thought simplifies tough choices. Together they make ethics a lifestyle, not a slogan. With time, ethics and integrity become inner peace. Those who live coherently sleep light, speak clearly, and walk firmly. Mental discipline keeps character steady in any scene. Critical thinking secures fair, consistent decisions. That moral harmony opens the next path, continuous learning and intellectual evolution. Learning through life isn't duty. It's the privilege of an awakened mind. Knowledge fuels spirit, keeping curiosity alive. Critical thinking turns learning into practical wisdom by filtering what matters. Mental discipline ensures consistency when motivation fades. Clarity of thought places every new piece into the mind's puzzle. Lifelong learning means the diploma is the beginning, not the end. The world changes fast. Comfort traps the stagnant. Self-awareness shows when it's time to relearn. Critical thinking questions old truths with fresh eyes. Mental discipline prevents laziness from disguising itself as certainty. A true student learns from everything: books, mistakes, silence, even failure. Clarity of thought turns experiences into lessons, not trauma. Emotional control prevents quitting when progress slows. Every challenge hides a classroom. Critical thinking filters gold from the world's noise. The curious mind doesn't seek status, it seeks expansion. Mental discipline turns curiosity into habit. Reading, listening, observing, all become mental nourishment. Self-awareness identifies what truly adds value. Clarity of thought organizes it into applicable wisdom. Many study to prove something, not to grow. Real learning requires intellectual humility. Critical thinking begins when you accept you might be wrong. Mental discipline converts humility into growth, not insecurity. Emotional control stops ego from stealing curiosity's credit. Continuous learning is a gym for the mind. Training makes it stronger. Clarity of thought is that visible muscle. Each book broadens perspective and sharpens expression. Self-awareness decides what to keep or discard. Critical thinking prevents hoarding useless data. Those who learn to impress forget. Those who learn to evolve remember. Mental discipline separates ordinary students from silent masters. Learning is patience, not haste. Emotional control handles frustration when understanding lags. Clarity of thought turns doubt into the next step up. Lifelong learning also means unlearning the outdated. Many old beliefs must yield to truth. Critical thinking wields the hammer that breaks old paradigms. Self-awareness notices when pride clings to the past. Mental discipline releases knowledge gracefully. Teaching reinforces learning. Sharing what you know strengthens clarity of thought. Explaining forces structure in reasoning. Critical thinking turns knowledge into bridges between people. Emotional control teaches with patience, not superiority. The ever-learning mind loses fear of the new. Change stops being threat and becomes opportunity. Mental discipline keeps curiosity alive through discomfort. Self-awareness sees each challenge as evolution's call. Critical thinking ensures progress has direction. Reading matters, but living consciously matters more. Every experience can teach when viewed with clarity of thought. Emotional control prevents feeling from distorting insight. Mental discipline turns observation into habit. Critical thinking connects each event to wider understanding. Learning isn't linear. It cycles through curiosity, error, and comprehension. Self-awareness accepts this rhythm peacefully. Mental discipline keeps study alive after enthusiasm cools. Clarity of thought orders accumulated lessons into practice. Critical thinking ensures endless growth. Lifelong learning is humility before infinite knowledge. No mind knows enough, and recognizing it frees you. Mental discipline guards against arrogance. Critical thinking keeps curiosity eternal. Self-awareness reminds that learning honors self and world alike. The secret is turning learning into pleasure, not obligation. When knowledge equals joy, evolution flows. Clarity of thought reveals value in every discovery. Emotional control stops envy or comparison. Critical thinking centers purpose over vanity. Eventually, continuous learning becomes identity. The disciplined mind lives in constant discovery. Mental discipline gives consistency. Self-awareness gives direction. Critical thinking turns curiosity into useful wisdom. That restless pursuit of knowledge prepares the spirit for the next stage, using the mind as a compass for a changing world. The future belongs to those who can think clearly amid noise. In an age ruled by information, true power lies in filtering, not accumulating. Critical thinking becomes the century's most valuable tool. Clarity of thought is the new intellectual gold. Only with mental discipline can we navigate truth, illusion, and distraction. Technological progress demands not only technical skill, but mental maturity. Self-awareness is the antidote to digital alienation. The distracted mind becomes product. The disciplined mind becomes creator. Emotional control keeps anxiety from taking the wheel. The future rewards thinkers, not reactors. Artificial intelligence can process data, but not human discernment. Critical thinking separates the wise from the automated. Mental discipline turns information into conscious decision. Clarity of thought keeps the mind free from manipulation. Self-awareness reminds us technology, without purpose, is just elegant noise. The new world needs autonomous, emotionally mature thinkers. Those who master emotional control become natural leaders. Clarity of thought helps them express complex ideas simply. Mental discipline sustains ethics under speed and pressure. Critical thinking ensures their choices serve truth, not vanity. The future will belong to those who can learn, unlearn, and relearn. Lifelong learning is no longer luxury but survival. Self-awareness shows what must change. Critical thinking challenges outdated models before they become prisons. Mental discipline keeps evolution constant and intentional. The era of distraction rewards those who master focus. The world screams for attention, but few hear their own thoughts. Clarity of thought is the secret weapon against chaos. Emotional control keeps calm when others lose direction. Critical thinking filters noise into purpose. In the future, the mind is real capital. Money fluctuates, but disciplined thinking endures. Mental discipline creates consistency amid instability. Self-awareness guards authenticity from trends. Clarity of thought turns knowledge into practical power. Critical thinking ensures that power serves purpose. Wisdom today means questioning what most accept without thought. Critical thinking becomes intellectual resistance. Mental discipline protects you from the crowd's shifting opinions. Self-awareness reveals whether you think freely or echo others. Clarity of thought is freedom within the mind. The future is built by those who unite logic and emotion harmoniously. Emotional control allows rational decisions under pressure. Mental discipline offers stability amid uncertainty. Clarity of thought turns noise into strategy. Critical thinking guides this dance between reason and humanity. True balance. AI may write books, but it can't feel human pain. Self-awareness remains uniquely ours. Mental discipline ensures we use technology as tool, not crutch. Clarity of thought shields us from overstimulation. Critical thinking keeps deep reflection alive. The coming world will be fast, competitive, and emotionally demanding. Mastering mental self-control is the new edge. Emotional control outweighs credentials. Self-awareness aligns choices with essence. Critical thinking becomes the foundation of all lasting success. Tomorrow's leadership won't come from titles, but from inner clarity. Those with clarity of thought inspire naturally. Mental discipline protects them from fleeting power. Critical thinking preserves integrity amid pressure. Emotional control turns them into calm beacons in storms. With automation rising, creativity becomes the human signature. Critical thinking fertilizes imagination into innovation. Self-awareness channels ideas into impact. Clarity of thought structures creativity. Mental discipline carries vision to completion. The future will reward those who unite wisdom, calm, and purpose. Emotional control brings serenity amid haste. Critical thinking enables ethical choices in uncertainty. Mental discipline sustains persistence when others quit. Clarity of thought keeps vision steady through the fog. Ultimately, the future won't belong to those who know everything, but to those who never stop learning. Self-awareness ensures evolution. Critical thinking gives direction. Mental discipline adds consistency. Clarity of thought turns chaos into lucidity. Emotional control maintains balance. That is the mind destined to thrive in any era. Now it's time to look inward and recognize the power that's always been there. Your mind is your most valuable tool, but it can also be your prison. Critical thinking unlocks those invisible bars of automatic thought. Mental discipline makes that key a daily habit. Clarity of thought is the reward awaiting those who truly decide to think. To master the mind isn't to control everything, but to choose what deserves attention. Self-awareness grants consciousness. Emotional control provides direction. Together, they form the calm of action without desperation and the confidence of purpose. Outer chaos loses force when inner order rules. And that order starts with one act, thinking before reacting. Most people run from silence because they fear hearing themselves. But silence is where clarity is born. Stop seeking answers outside. Start asking questions within. Critical thinking is the most powerful internal dialogue there is. The more honestly you listen, the clearer you become, and the less the world manipulates you. Remember, no one is born with a disciplined mind, but everyone can build one. Mental discipline is a muscle, and every conscious choice trains it. When laziness comes, act. When fear comes, analyze. When doubt comes, think. Clarity of thought is earned, never granted. Only those who persist reach mental lucidity. The path to mastering your mind is the path to personal freedom. Self-awareness lets you understand what drives you. Emotional control ensures you don't lose yourself. No power is greater than self-mastery, because those who command their minds command destiny, and those who command destiny no longer fear the future. Now the choice is yours. You can keep reacting to life, or start creating it. You can let your mind rule you, or make it your loyal servant. Critical thinking gives you tools. Mental discipline gives you strength. Clarity of thought shows you the way. The only question is, will you think like everyone else, or finally think for yourself? If this message resonated, don't let it end here. Apply what you've learned, practice what you've understood, and watch your life transform. Disciplining the mind is an ongoing journey, and this is just the beginning. Subscribe, activate notifications, and keep evolving with us. Because the journey to a clear mind doesn't end, it only begins.